have it up over here. Yeah. Go ahead and unroll that, so that's just going to happen. Get to it. It's plugged in the back of that. So no, it's hard to get to. You don't have to speak the plug in. That good? That's why we got to do this. Oh, well. Yeah, that looked good like that. That's good. Not yet.
Say what?
Nice job, Sam.
So Ken over here, he's
Hello, hello, test, test, test. So that means you don't mess with it.
I understand. I mean, I don't like messing with things.
Hello, hello, hello.
That's the volume for it. So
Oh, good. See, I don't know nothing about it.
So I was right about that volume.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. Don't go anywhere. Okay. I'm here. I'm so glad you all are here tonight. And I think I need to put a contract out on no, there he is. Yay, Dan Dyer. I was going to have you assassinated. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just not organized at all. Welcome, everybody. We got any visitors? Because we had a gentleman contact Jeff and me, and well, what was he thinking? Okay, and the new members, we have, I can't even see you. Lesser, where are you? I'm blind. Thank you for coming back. All right. We've got announcements, and the magazines on the chair are an idea that Dan Dyer had, and I would like for you to kind of put it in a nutshell if you can, so we know. And I think the part of it is that it's giving out emails, if we're comfortable with that, because as what the guy said is required is they got to have a contact list of the whole club. Okay, and he said that if we order as a club, we'll get a bigger discount. So if we can get a multi-person order together, we can order it through the club and get better savings, if, you know, it's okay. And it sounds like a great idea, but I kind of wanted to just let you all know and give you a heads up. Is anybody in here concerned about their information going to Penn State? Because we'll go ahead and do it. He said sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's more %. So, what? Bye. Isn't that wonderful? They love me. They know I won't get them in trouble. Okay. That's what I was going to say. We get spam calls all the time. They know where we are and what we're doing. Right. Okay, this month, being June, we have a event to be held the 21st at Lumber and Craft. They want vendors. This was my idea, so it's my fault. We're doing a tent sale. So if you've got things in your inventory that haven't moved and you would like to come to Lumber and Craft from 10 until 3 on June 21st, which is the Saturday after Father's Day, and we can sell. And he's going to have other vendors from other places. He's going to have a food truck. It's going to be kind of like an event. And he's called it Against the Grain. So we're passing that around on social media, and if everybody could share it, it would be great. So that's what we're doing in June. Anything you have, your stuff, my stuff. When you're there, you have your own either table or half a table or your 10 by 10 canopy or whatever. He said he has space for 10 by 10 canopies. He said, really, it's not an issue, but that was going to be right in his spot. So we can go further if we need to. The main thing, that's next. He just wanted us to get a head count as to who would be there. Bob and I will be there. Are you going to be able to be there? Denise, who would like to be there? We can have as many as we want. We don't care. I mean, seriously, it was my idea, so. The next thing is taking the small lathe back well during this 10 until 3 event that I dreamed up. Once again, my fault. Jonesboro Days. We are going to be at the Christian Church on the lawn at the front. The front opening, we're going to be to the right. If you're looking at the building, we're going to be to the right on the grass. That's a 10 by 20 spot. John has a 10 by 20 tent. It does not have sides. Okay, so we can come up with sides because we can take sides off what we got. I think that's the way they work. Anyway, we'll take the Nova lathe and the sharpener. We'll have what we need for whoever. I have a list of those that wanted to, and it's the 4th and 5th instead of 4th, 5th, and 6th. So anyway, that's that. We are accepted. We did not have to pay to be there. They asked that we would donate to the church a percentage of what we do. And I'm good with that because it saved us $285. That's what the town of Jonesboro wanted to be there. All right, next. Kurt DeHer is going to be in Johnson City at Lumber and Craft, July the 10th. Jeff, did you want to say? Yeah, and there'll be ticket sales. It's cost the club $400 to get him here, but through the ticket sales, we're hoping to recoup our investment. Either way, it's a small enough amount to have somebody with that kind of notoriety here. I'm thrilled beyond belief. And Ronnie Bowman is going to host him and run him around and let him see everything that's wonderful in our area. Thank you, Ronnie, because it was going to be me, and no. On July the 10th at 6 o'clock. Let's see here. The fair. I have heard nothing, and it's kind of like it's a closed society. If you've been in it before, you can be in it again, but if you've never been in it, you've got to stand on one foot and hide for us to be able to get a decent spot to be in. I have. And then I had another question, so I've emailed and called, and I've nothing. It's like crickets. Okay, anybody else got any other announcements? One more thing. Does anybody here are you members of AAW? The latest issue that has been put out on email, their catalog or book, there's an article in there about saving your thumbs, thumb health, and mine lock up. So I looked at it very closely, and there's some exercises and all kinds of neat stuff. It was just some good information. So that's just an FYI. All right, we got our instant gallery, and from the looks of things, Bill gets to kick us off, unless there's other announcements I've missed. Gallery. No, Richard, I'm so sorry. Richard, I'm sorry. Well, you've been called worse by better, huh?
I just thought it'd be good to tell you that I do turn other things besides bowls.
Oh, you don't need that.
These are lids. I turned these originally in 2011. They were wet wood. I turned them thick, and I left them dry. And I just got around to starting to turn them recently. But they all have a friction lid, and they match up with, the lid matches with the grain
going down on all of them. And then we had a demo here. I turned these. The problem I have is that my little cup cracks. Don't know why, but I turn them wet, and the little stem can move all at once. But this one didn't crack. It's one of my few that haven't cracked. And then you can also turn on your lathe things that aren't exactly round. This was turned, and as you can see, it's wider here than here. This was also turned on the lathe, and just fun stuff.
Don't say anything. So, but I can't unscrew it if I'm holding mine. So I brought these two. I went out to see Kirk Deere here in Utah. I did a class with him. It was lidded boxes, but the real reason I went was because he was doing threading. And so turns out that persimmon makes a really good threaded box. My problem is I left these too long. I should have cut them off, but I didn't know that until it was too late. So it comes off for quite a while. Those have been turned now since last year, September or so, and they're still doing great. The other thing that he started doing, which I don't particularly care for, is using epoxy. Because the problem with the wood for the hold the threads is getting wood's expensive. And so what he started doing is using epoxy so that you can turn the threads into epoxy. The problem I have is this looks like it came from Walmart now, so I don't really care for that. But anyway, I brought these two simply, they bounce well too. So I brought these simply to say, Kirk's going to be here explaining how to do this at Lumber and Craft. I didn't know we were going to talk about it before, so anyway.
Lisa volunteered me to make a tip bar for the charity here. Anyway, I've done several hollow turning, but I'm not very good at it. So I tried to make a big hollow turning, and it was a total disaster. It blew up and was all over the basements. I didn't want to do, I was almost finished with it, and I didn't want to do any more. So I looked at my stash of once turned bowls, and I found two bowls that were pretty close to the same size. So this is two small bowls. I turned them and finished them both, then flattened them out and glued them together, and then cut a hole in the bottom of one. So the nice thing, except for in here, right to where the joint is, it's all finished on the inside because I sanded and finished the bowls, while they're still separate. This goes over here.
I got a piece of magnolia that was boring, and I had some ink and a spray thing. What do you call that spray thing? Thank you, that one. Yeah. Is this working? Okay. Oh. Anyways, I tried some color, and it worked out okay. I think it's pleasing, and it's different. And a good friend of mine gave me a piece of cherry crotch. Now, this cherry crotch was rotted all the way through its entire life. And it had some inhabitants, a little family, a group, so to speak. I disrupted their home, and I feel bad, but it hollowed out okay. And it's still growing, I should say, moving. It's still, vibrant. But negative space, another friend of mine says, negative space is the way to go. So, hello, negative.
Okay. This one I brought for a lesson tonight. This was a bowl I made in 2020. It was a commission project, not as big as yours, but it was requested by a family member to be a salad bowl, a functional salad bowl that she could use. She gave me the size and dimensions that she wanted. And I used some box elder. So you can see from 5 years, it's held its color extremely well, which means she's storing it correctly. It's been used a lot. She used it a whole lot. But if you got a chance to look at it, you won't be able to see it from there. But the finish on the inside is actually kind of starting to flake off. And I consider this a flop. I brought it because I wanted you all to see this is only 5 years old. It's been used with salads, probably salad dressings. Anything she chose to put in there, I don't know, but she used it a lot. And I was going to tell you what I did to finish it so that you don't do the same thing yourself. And I didn't know what I was doing 5 years ago with regard to salad bowl finishes, but I put on a base coat, Minwax Natural Stain. Go figure. I don't know why I did that, but it's a stain that seals. That was my sealing coat, and it's colorless, so it didn't change the wood. Then I put a coat of spar varnish on top of that to preserve the color of the box elder. And it appears that it worked pretty well on the outside and the inside to a degree. The inside was not as pretty as the outside. It was not a whole lot different than what you see here. And I just don't care for that look. That's a personal preference. It just kind of looks dirty, dingy to me, but it worked, and she liked it, and that was the important thing. And then I put 2 coats, top coats of wipe-on poly. I had a little consult with a couple of you before the meeting, and the hunch is that the salads, the dressings, the caustic, the acidic portions of that probably ate through my finish, and this is what I was left with. My son brought it. We were visiting him a couple weeks ago. He brought it from her house in Wisconsin for me to take a look at, and I agreed to bring it back to finish it. So I've got the challenge now of sanding it down to bare wood again, removing all the old finish, and starting over and probably using an oil-based finish on the inside for a salad bowl. That's something that she can replenish herself. But I thought you all might want to take a look at that, see what one of the failures is, and if you got more advice, I'd be happy to take it. But that's that. The outside stayed fine. The finish on the outside stayed glossy. It's solid. It's not affected. It's just the inside where she used it a lot. And I don't have a whole lot of feedback of products I've sold, what they look like after 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And this was good feedback for me because I'll change my ways now. So there you go.
My name's Sam. This is some spalted walnut I did just for the little vases that we're doing. I think I got like a little 1/2 inch in there, but I think it turned out pretty nice. I got a little spalting on it, and then made another one from a sister part of it. It's got some of the wormholes in it and stuff, and I cleaned them out. I was going to use epoxy, but I ordered my epoxy stuff, and then the epoxy came in, but the measuring cups didn't. So now I got to wait for the measuring cups. And I have a couple other ones that kind of like it with a lot more holes, and I was going to fill them up. But this is a piece of cherry that I had. It was dried out, I thought, but after I got it turned and got it finished, letting it sit out, just sit out to dry and stuff, and it started cracking on me a little bit more. It don't look that bad, but I tried at least. Well, that's all 3 of them. Thank you.
Gave this to me before he left this earth, and the doctor tells me that 3 points of reference are better than 2. And if you're clumsy enough with peripheral neuropathy that you trip over a cord like this and you pull your sharpener off of the table when you're doing a demonstration and you land on your good knee, this is helpful. People have remarked on it. This is a piece I made 10 years ago. It's Honduran rosewood burl, and I did it in put a wave in it with a piece of maple. There's a fellow by the name of John Beaver that was a cinematographer out in Hollywood and got interested in wave theory. And he does this with 4, 5, 6 waves and glues them up and turns them out. It's kind of interesting. At some point, if somebody's really hot for it, I know how to do it. I've made a number of them. It's a lot of fun. By the way, you can't get Honduran rosewood anymore because they won't let it into the country. So I was happy with that. This was given to me by my pastor about a week ago. He spent 20 years in Kenya. And he recently went back there and he was presented with this. It's olive wood and this is all hand beaded. It's called an akuri. It's Maasai, and it is given to someone who is a senior member of the tribe, etc. I'm not, although I'm certain I probably have some African blood in me like everybody else. And I would say that the red, white, and blue, he thought I should have it, not him. So I thought I'd bring it and let you all take a look at it. Thought it was kind of interesting.
This is the first box I ever turned and the only box I ever turned. Ambrosia maple. Did it ever cut with easy wood tools? It's got the good pucker power. And I did put the flocking inside of it for rings or jewelry or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so because my world is what? Oh, yeah. Give me a minute. Renaud took me to task and showed me how to do a mushroom. I liked his way. So I put this on sideways and turned it like that and hollowed it out with a drill bit because I'm not that good. And when I got done, it looked like an owl, but I took it and I sanded all that off. But anyway, the stem is a piece of sassafras, which the barn smelled so good. But I like turning mushrooms mostly because the finish isn't a big deal. I like it. So it's just finding weird wood and doing weird stuff with it. This is one of my favorites. I have a coaster form. And so just turn a bunch and pour some epoxy and make you little bubbles so it looks like it rained on it. I got $25 for the last one I did. The lady just said, I have to have that. So I said, go for it. You can have it. Now this is a piece of wood that I do not remember what was, but it's a book match and then a book match. So it was just a quarter of this. And so I cut it, and then I cut it again and laid it out. And I think it looks like a dragon's eye. I just think it's cool. So anyway, I just made a coaster out of that because it wasn't big enough really to do anything with. I don't like walnut burl and negative space. It wasn't there until I started sanding. And then I just decided to leave it. I did not care because I was done with it by the time I got to that. The inside of it looks horrible. And I will do some more on that, but it's pretty, but man, it's tough. And I think that's all I got. So, if you all came in and noticed the stuff on the table back there, we're going to auction some stuff for the club. So whoever wants whatever, the donation will go to the club. But we have a... Bob, can you say what that is? It's like a downdraft sanding. A what? Yeah, for your air collection system, so you can hook to it. The hood that's beside it, you just lay when you're sanding, and it'll suck it back instead of up into your face. That would be something that I would prefer. I don't want to take this stuff home, so If somebody can make a donation, give it to the club, take the piece home. We have 2 boxes of gloves, and Rob brought sea urchins, and we wanted to auction them off as well, just so we can put more money in the coffers for the club so we can do more outside events. It's a vicious cycle. So, for any one thing on the table, is anybody interested? Will you make a bid of $5? $1 for the sea urchins. Do I hear $1? Okay, do I hear $1.50? Which one do you want? The urchins? Okay, just one or all? How many you got? 6. Okay, and do I hear 2? 2, okay. Do I hear 2.5? This is each. So you get all 6. So 2.5. 3, okay, we've got $3. Okay, anybody else want to go higher than $3? $5. Woohoo! Boy, I like it. You had your pain meds before you came, right? It's all right. Okay. Do I hear more than $5 for the sea urchins? Each. $5 going once. $5 going twice. Come on, y'all. Okay, so, John, you've got 6 sea urchin shells. All right, good for you. Now for the box of gloves, they're size medium. They're powder free. So does anybody have an offer for a box of gloves? Do I hear $2 for a box of gloves? $2? Do I hear more than $2? Do I hear $3? $3, okay. Do I hear $4 for a box of gloves? $4 for a box of gloves, okay. $4.50. Let's go with $4.50. $5, okay. $5 for a box of gloves. Do I hear 6? We're on a roll. $6 for a box of gloves. $6. $6 going once. $6 going twice. All right. Dave, you got a box of gloves. Do you want the other box of gloves for $5, Sam? Okay, so the gloves are gone. Now the sanding thing, is anybody interested in that? Do I hear $5 for it? It's a sanding surface you hook your suction to and it pulls the dust down. That's the idea behind it. Anybody interested in $5 for the sanding surface? $1. 50 cents. Okay, $1. Sam, it's yours. So glad you came. All right, Sam's got it. Woohoo! Now, the other thing back there that lays behind your lathe that sucks the dust behind, is that something of interest to you? You want to give $1? You want to give $1 for it? Okay, $1. Anybody else? 2. All right. Do I hear 3 for the little black thingamabobble? $3. 3. All right. Do I hear 4? Okay. Do I hear 5? Not really. We'll put it on your account. Okay, $5. Okay, do I hear 6? $6 for a sanding surface. That's Bob's world, not mine. Okay, 6 going once, or 5 going once, 5 going twice. So, thank you, Sam. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, so this evening we've decided to join the Penn State. We sold some items for the club. Make your donations over there to Dave. And now we have Rob Scalf, who's going to come and show us something phenomenal. He's going to show us how to do those fancy finials for the sea urchins. How long you been doing this, Rob? How long have you been making the sea urchin finials?
Probably a couple of years.
Okay, okay.
Made a few at first. Last Christmas, I went to see.
Oh. Okay. Something triggered that.
Anyway, I thought I'd share how I've come to do them. I got a handout if y'all are interested. There's plenty more of this one. Oh, that's better, yeah. 1, 2, that work. Okay. Okay, anyway, I've done a bunch of these. I got on a roll last Christmas and made a ton of them. A lot of them are sold. These are left over. But when I first started doing them, I thought they'd be easier than a wooden one, which really turned out not to be the case. It's about as much trouble to get these ready to be assembled than it is to hollow out a little piece of wood. But they're really interesting. They're worth doing, I think. They're unique. So one of the issues, give you a little background, one of the issues I had with them is when I first started turning them, what you do is, and I'll demonstrate this, is you have to open them up and make them round. And at the same time, you want to put a taper in them. So you have a nice seamless connection between the wood and the shell. And so when I assembled them, first started to assemble them, I just glued them into the shell, and which is, it works, but it's problematic for a couple things. There's precious little real estate here for the glue to bond to. You almost, in my opinion, you have to use epoxy. That's what I use. And the other problem is it's easy to get the finial misaligned because there's nothing really lining it up there. So you have to be, when you put epoxy on, you're going to get squeeze out, which you don't want, even though the stuff I was using was crystal clear, but it's still, you get it. And then there was the problem of, having to set them aside carefully and lining up the finial and make sure you didn't end up with something like that, which has happened. So I thought about it a while, and what I came up with was a little structure. When I'm done with the finial, it doesn't even require a tenon. I just cut it off. And then I size a dowel to go in there. And then, hope that's the one I had it in there. And then the taper meshes up, and then you get a straight finial. Is self-clamping. Takes a little spot of any kind of glue you want to use. If I'm doing a bunch of them, I'll use hide glue in a pot, and because it's really slick. It's kind of self-lubricating. But yellow glue, epoxy, anything you want to use. Pop it together. It's going to stay together, and you're good. You got a seamless connection, and there's no squeeze out because there's no glue there. You just got a little dab deep inside the cell there. So I'm going to show you how I do that, and I've kind of laid it out in the handout. The shells, like I say, they look like this. They're irregular. The bottom hole's too small, usually. Top hole's all right. But again, you need to true them up, make them round, open the bottom one. I put my finial in the small hole. That's just me. I guess you could do it either way. But to me, so what I use is this little cone, and you've got to
that's a full-size pattern on that layout. So if you'll turn that cone to that exact dimension, and that's also a full-size pattern of the sandpaper, and cut that piece of little sandpaper out there, it'll wrap around there perfectly and form itself to the cone. The other thing you need to do, I found this out the hard way, you don't want to use any kind of, I don't care if it's heavy back, but any kind of standard paper back sandpaper. These shells are real abrasive and they load up, and it'll wear right through it in a heartbeat. So what you want to use, I use this stuff on I've got a drum sander, so I buy it by the roll. But you can just go down to Lowe's and get a 3 by 21 inch sanding belt and use this. This is 80 grit. And then I use, I thought I wrote it, I think I wrote it on the handout. 3M, it's a spray-on adhesive. It's basically a contact cement. So you put it on both pieces, let it dry, and then slap it on. And you got you got a little while, to manipulate it on there and get it on. But that stuff, I've had the same can, I bet, over 10 years. And every time I pick it up and use it, it works. I went out one day and bought the fancy can of Gorilla Glue. Used it once. It's like their polyurethane glue. Use it once and you're done. Throw it in the trash. So that didn't work too good. So anyway. So to prepare these, I've already started wrong. Where's the knockout bar? Knockout bar? Oh. My wife will tell you I can look straight at something and never see it. When you make it, the first few I made, the first one I made was real big, which was pointless because you always end up in pretty much the same spot. So this kind of economizes. But you want to, and then I got inconsistent. I had some of these with a big tenon on them, some of them a little, and then some of them would fit in a chuck, and some of them would fit in another chuck. So you want to, in fact, I recut one today because of that. So you want to make them to fit your chuck. So remember. And this is just, one of those big erasers for cleaning sandpaper. So I keep one of these handy. I was already getting loaded up. And then what you want to do is just and I found if you kind of just work this around rather than push it straight on, it'll open it up nicely. And then to finish it up, I go back in, try to keep it straight and square to finish it out. And the nice thing about this too is as you're fitting your plug for the finial or cap, you can always go back and tweak this if you want instead of the in other words, you can fit the shell to the tenon on the plug. That's probably good enough there. That's already opened up. One thing with these shells, is you have to, they have a nasty habit. If you look at these, see these stripes here, these lines? and you can see them on the inside, they'll separate along those zone lines. There's 5 segments here, and they'll separate easily on them. So you have to prepare these shells before you assemble. I used to do it first thing, and then I realized I was just creating work for myself because it tends to gum up the sandpaper. This is what I use, Mod Podge for paper. I never did paper mache when I was a kid, but that's what this is for. It's just thick glue, and I just but I round them out before I put that in. Now I used to do that first, but this way you keep that off your sandpaper will last a little longer. Then once you've done that, you want to come in here, and I just slop 2 heavy coats all the way around inside. Just get those little throwaway acid brushes and put 1 coat. If you do, like I always do probably a dozen of these at a time. So, and I batch everything so I save time. So, you start on one, and by the time you get all 12 done, you can go ahead and put a coat on the other. I think it's just heavy white glue is all it is, Elmer's glue. But it skins and dries real quick. And then once you do that, they shouldn't come apart. Okay, I start between centers. And this will work. That's going to be close. Let's see what else I got. I thought I had another shell. Well, we'll just have to make do. This is a little small, maybe. Okay. And so the first thing I'm going to do is cut tenons on these ends, and I drill a hole in there because there's no way. Well, there is a way. It can be done, but it's really awkward, and you might tear up the finial trying to drill it after the fact. So what I do is I just pre-drill. And so what I'll do is we'll get this round. That's not going to work. I do this all the time. Is that right? Good grief. Whoops. Now, let's see. I measure as little as possible. But for the tenon, I want it pretty close. My chuck that I'm going to be using is perfectly round at 19 millimeters. So I try to get as close to that as possible. I'll take the time to measure that so I've got a good grip on this thing, because there's not much holding it there. And then according to the drawing there, I think I've got a 5/8 tenon. Is that right? I'm going to go a little more than that. I'm just going to do 3/4, and I can, it's a 3/8, so I just do twice the width of this. I'll fall off the platform here. This one I don't care so much, because all I'm going to do with that is hold it to drill. So now what I want to do, that's a small one. And what I'll do is I'll do like 10 or 12 of these at a time. And so, because they have to be fitted individually to the shells, this is one that fell off the table and broke, and I took it apart, but I number them. I'll write a number on this, and when I'm done with that, I'll put a number on the tenon so that I can keep all this stuff straight. I just almost screwed up and measured the wrong side. Of course, I've never done that before. All right, and then the next cut is going to be a temporary shoulder that'll fit the hole on the shell, and that, if you'll look, is 1/4 inch. It's important to, the reason they're specific measurements is obviously for the depth of the hole. I want about 1/4 inch hole, deep hole, when I'm done cutting everything off. And I don't want to go too deep, because I've had, because if you go too deep and you get into that cove, you could cut into the hole. Never done that either, but it can happen. So again, this is 3/8. So I just eyeball 1/4 there. Actually, I missed it a little bit. This thing's a little bit small for some reason. I love a steb center. So there you go. It's a little, it's a good fit. It's a slide and fit, but it's not that important, because you've got that little taper that'll seat in there. And again, that's coming off anyway before I assemble. So now we can put this back in. I should have cut that taper before I took it off. I usually do that, save a little time. The shell's a little bit big for this, but I'm going to keep going anyway. But normally, normally you'll have a longer taper on that, and what you want to do is kind of like where you've cut through these, you can see how these nodules will lay on there. This one's okay. That's pretty clean. But I would prefer to have had a little more. Okay? Then what you can do is coming out here, you can make you a little pencil mark where you want the diameter to be. Put it back on, and then just take material off, reduce the diameter to your pencil line so you have the transition there that you would like. So we'll go ahead now. This is where I forget to do this one and move on, and then remember, and then have to go back and reset up. So let's put the smaller one in here. I'm going to do the same thing here. Although you don't need you really don't need much of a tenon here for obvious reasons, because you don't have so much leverage hanging out there. But just for consistency's sake and not having to set the drill up differently, you just do it the same. I ought to put away the one I'm not working with, shouldn't I? Again, I'll just go 1/4 inch. Working pretty close on this one. I guess I should have selected my shells a little more carefully. There we go. That's a pretty good fit. About perfect, actually. Okay, so now we've got both our plugs cut out. What an idiot. Duh. It's an M33. Yes. I'm a big fan of them. They're expensive, but they're really well made, and they got a lot of different jaws. Okay, so I don't know why I did that. I've got stage fright. I'm not thinking. So we'll go ahead and drill this. This is where I put the wrong end in there and drill the wrong side. So you end up with a real short finial. Anyway, so I put this in. I like to pull the live center up there to get it all, make sure it's running as true as I can get it. So again, we want to make sure we drill the shell end. I think I've drilled the wrong end more than once. I have to move. One issue that I ran into, when you drill a 1/4-inch hole for a 1/4-inch dowel, it doesn't work real well in this. I want a nice sliding fit, but I don't want to have to force it in there because I want to try it a few times. And then, like if you're using a regular wood glue, alphatic resin glue, that stuff grabs. And then if it's really tight, you might get it in there and then it sticks, and then you got a real mess on your hands. So, and I don't want to make dowels. I want to just buy off-the-shelf dowels. And I don't want to have to put them in a chuck and sand them down. So what I found, I did a little digging, and for a 1/4 inch, and I've tried different sizes. I've tried 3/16 smaller dowels. Same problem with all. You know, you drill in same size hole as the dowel, and it's always going to be too tight and unacceptable. I tried going a 64th oversize, and that's a little sloppy for me. I didn't like that. So what I found, you know, they have the letter drills that they use in taps, and with the 1/4 inch, this is not the case like with the 3/16 or other size that I saw, but with a 1/4 inch, you can get a size, I think it's an F, and it's like 5 to 7 thousandths oversize, and this works really well. I bought this from Amazon. I got 2 of them. It was really pretty cheap. And then I just made a depth stop here out of a dowel. So I've got 3/4, a 1/4, that's an inch. And so I want a 1/4 inch hole in what's left. And that is supposed to be 1 1/4 inches. Yeah. So I've got a 1/4 inch and 1/4 out here. So boy, that's a fine thread on this tailstock, isn't it? Man, worked myself to death. Okay. So that's done, and I still haven't screwed it up. Go to this one. Again, make sure the tapered end, the shell end is being drilled. Do as I say, not as I do. And we're going to go the same way. And again, that's excessive for that tenon, but for what I'm working with here, I don't mind wasting the wood. And it saves me from having to set my depth stop up differently. Now, if you're working with some kind of exotic, you may want to recalculate. This is Honduras or genuine mahogany. I've had it for over about 25 years. Been sitting in my wood pile. That's something that's hard to get anymore, and what you get is no good. I got some, I bought some, God, I can't think, it's hell getting old. What's the Claro walnut? From Craft Supplies. That's what that is, and I'm totally unimpressed with it, by the way, just for the record. I just didn't get the local stuff. Okay, so we're done here. We're ready to turn. So we'll do the hard one first. Again, I'll put my center in there. And again, that's 19 millimeters. And that's another thing I like about Axminster. They tell you in a documentation, they got drawings of these things. And they'll tell you when at what diameter this chuck makes a perfect circle. And that's what it is on this one. So obviously I want to try to get the max grip. Of course, you can fudge it one way or another like any other chuck. But I like having that. And again, I'll bring this tailstock up. Now I'm going to get that other little platform. Okay. Pardon? I'm about 1,400. I like doing these with a skew. You could certainly do them with a bowl gouge or a detail or spindle gouge. The only issue is these V-cuts, which a nice sharp pointed detail gouge probably get in there for you if you don't want to use a skew. One thing I neglected to do the other thing about a skew that I like, it lends itself to lighter cuts on something like this. I tend to get a little aggressive with a bowl gouge, and it's easy to knock this thing out around or even knock it out. And the other thing is the skew tends, in my opinion anyway, maybe I'm just not that good with a bowl gouge, is I think it gives it makes those tangential curves, which is what you need, a little easier. At least that's my sense of it. It seems to flow between that and the lighter cuts. It tends to, just for me anyway, it flows better. Whoops, almost did it, didn't I? And what I like to do is, even though I'm just roughing, I'm trying to kind of keep that flow. I don't know if that helps or not. I guess you could just hog out. But I like to try to kind of establish the form at first. Got a little bit of a hole in there. There we go. All right, so, and again, we'll have to start from the thin end and work back. I guess we can't sand here, so as, of course, we work back towards the thicker end, you'd want to sand these details as you complete them on this end. You can go back and touch it up sometimes, but then sometimes by the time you get up here, that little end's whipping around, which if you're done, you don't care. All right, so I never lay these out, by the way. I never have. I think the form is pretty forgiving as long as you get as long as those curves flow and you get a nice little onion shape at the end. It's good. I mean, I drew it out there for you, but it's more of a guide than anything else. So it's more of a guide than anything else. So we'll come in. And then at this point, I'd sand that. You can leave that little arrow, I don't think it looks bad, or you can just, I would probably, you know, if I wanted more of a flow there, I would just sand it out. And usually 320, no coarser than 180. Do that. So, come in here. And if you want to, you can put like a little one thing I caution you, doing these little details, sometimes I tend to get a little aggressive. You know, you're feeling good. and if you go in there, especially with a gouge, a little too fast, and then it blows out that little knife edge there. So you know, you get to have a design opportunity, I think they call it, but I prefer to avoid them. So we'll just come on and just bring this back. Whoops. Gotta love the skew. So I will switch to the gouge here. It's a little bitty, I guess that's 3/8 spindle gouge. Okay. And then we'll just, this has been rough for me. I have a outboard. I can turn outboard on my lathe. And the way I turn, this puts my hand on this side. It's great because it's away from the chuck. This one puts it into it. So it's a little awkward. I have to adjust my And one little thing you can do, I generally don't because I like to try to get it done without it, but I'll show this. If you're having an issue, you know, with vibration, if your tailstock, like this one, you can drift the point out. You can actually bring the tailstock up and give it a little bit of support. And it's just touching lightly. It's going to burnish that little flame down there a little bit. So when you're done, you're going to have to revisit that with the sandpaper, but you can support it. And then, again, you're talking like 320 grit and then up. So, but that's a way to keep it from bouncing around. You can see it's awful thin there, and so you can't be putting a lot of, you can't get crazy aggressive. Okay, so at this point, whoops. We can put in that cove, and again, you can just do anything you want. You can make it long like a spool or short, whatever you want to, whatever you feel like. So, whoops, Rob. So we'll go maybe right here. What's wrong with me? I have a little trouble working from this side of the lathe. That's way too fat. And again, I just kind of eyeball it. In my opinion, there's no right or wrong. You kind of draw this thing with your tools as you go. And as long as everything is nice and flowing together, they usually, in my opinion, turn out okay. See if I can cut this without boogering it up. Yeah. That's where I tend to get a little aggressive, and then it can tear out that little arris there. I'm not sure that's exactly where I want that. That's going to be good enough on that one. So I will, in the shop, fiddle with it a lot, go back in and tweak, but that looks pretty good. We're gonna work this out, though. That's not quite what I want. I want a kind of a smoother transition there. So if I can do this without. And you can see, like, sometimes I have to get down, but I can see I still need to bring that down at convex and then flow in. You can see there's a hump there, and it's just not quite there yet. I can't. Whoops. I'm going to call that good for demonstration. Don't push my luck, huh? I will in the shop. I will in the shop. But that's not bad. You get a nice transition. Sometimes if you cut them shorter, you can get them where, long like that, you've got just a tiny bit of, it's like a spool or straighter section, which is okay. It looks good. It all looks good. But sometimes you can get them where it flows. It's a continuous curve from one end to another. But to do that, you almost have to elongate the onion, so to speak. And you can see that was a little more elongated. It's also a lot narrower. So just whatever you think looks good to you. And then again, you can see, I'm not done. You guys were going to let me get away with that, weren't you? I didn't finish the cove. I can get in there to cut it. Okay. And then, like I say, you could just about 320 grit start on that, and that's good enough. And what I generally do is I'll go. I didn't bring a piece of the. They got this mesh sandpaper. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really nice. But 320. If I got some tool marks, I may have to go to 180 in places, but I try to avoid it. And then 320, I'll go to these are Merca. I think they're a lot better than the Scotch 3Ms. Red pad, and then I used to use a gray pad, but you got to be careful with them; they'll catch, and you got to be ready to let it go. So I usually skip that, and I've started doing 600 grit with that. It comes in a roll. Klingspor has it. It's a open mesh, really nice stuff. And the nice thing too, you can see the dust coming through the back side of it, so you can see exactly where you're hitting. And then after I'm done with that, I'll grab some shavings, and then burnish it with one of these white pads. And if I have time, I've got some shellac here. Whether or not you final coat is shellac, I'll demonstrate that. It's a good finish for getting on a film quick. Okay, so there we are. And then we'll go ahead and put this in. I generally don't get carried away with these. More often than not, I'll just do a simple cap. I've made more elaborate. I just did one here. I mean, that's about as fancy as I'll get. But I don't see where it adds that much to an ornament. That's up under the limb. I like to keep it simple, and then everything flows down into that icicle or finial. And then with this, whoops, see there, I was going to turn it backwards. You're laughing. This bowl gouge, I think, works pretty good for that. If you wanted, we'll try it here. You know, you could. Yeah, it's almost too small. I mean, you could put a little knob on there. If you just, I'll do it just to play around, really, more than anything else. I don't really think it's necessary. That actually could use a little cleaning up. And that's done. Okay. Of course, it's too long to go in there because we got those big old tenons on them. We can check the fit. Pops right in there. And again, I would sand that in the same manner as the other one. So to put these together, now what I'll usually do while I got those nice tenons on there to work with, I'll go ahead and finish, completely finishing. And I've got some here sanded. I'll show you how I apply the shellac. Like I say, it's a real good, even if you're going to go to a lacquer or poly or something else, anything will stick to shellac, and shellac will stick to anything. And it's just a good way to get a quick coat and get it dry quick on especially these little items. When they get bigger, it gets a little more complicated. But and you know, it's a quick way to finish. You get it's a really nice looking finish when you're done. So again, what we'll do is we'll put this. I should have left that in there, huh? I got this real thin carding tool. I usually take this and just kind of use it as a reamer. Do the same with this. And if you can also pull it out there a little bit if you want, if it bothers you. That's why I leave a quarter. That's usually enough. But you could pull it out, use your center, you know, and clamp it. It'd be good enough for parting it off. You're not returning it. Okay. That's not going to work. There. So if you'll cut you a piece of dowel, I don't know, about 2 inches long, it doesn't matter. I usually, if you got vernier calipers, I would cut it exactly like a round number long, because and again, I used to trial and error these, eyeball them, but again, we've only got a 1/4 inch or so to work with there. I want to make sure I've got as much insertion as I can get. So I came up with this method to measure it precisely. And what I do, again, if you got vernier calipers, you're going to have to do some math. But if you got like a cheap pair of these, I guess most everybody has these, right? So what we're going to do, we're not really even measuring. And it doesn't matter how long this is. It can be an oddball. It can be out to the 9th decimal place. But we're going to measure there, and we're going to zero it. Okay? Then we're going to take our two pieces, insert it, and what I do, what's the constant on this, of course, is we've got a nice eris there, that sharp knife edge here on both where it seats in the cell. And I want to measure that. Remember, I zeroed it at the dowel. So we bring that in, minus 286.286. You got to remember that, okay? Minus 286. Now, what we'll do, take the dowel out. Put this together. Pull it up where it's going to be. And then we're going to remeasure. We're going to put it on those two sharp points again. And zero it. Okay? What we have, minus 0.286. Because this minus, it got shorter, we got to add. So I'm going to go 285, that's close enough, huh? And that's the length of my dowel. So I can, this may be, yeah, that'll work. So I just come in here. Maybe cut it just 30 second, a little bit short. Ugh. I thought I brought a little. Usually take a little sandpaper and just clean the end up. Okay, and then by this time this is all finished. Insert your dowel, some glue. I would probably use some 5-minute epoxy. Simply, this is still a fairly snug fit. It's not like it's got to be forced, but it's pretty snug, even with that oversized bit. So I would probably, again, hide glue works real well. You can put salt in it to slow down the cure, because it grabs fast too. Or I would probably just use some epoxy. You know, that gives you time, and it doesn't grab like other glue. And then you put that in there like so. Here, pop in, and you're done. Now, if you'd like, I'll put a coat of shellac. Would y'all like to see that? Pardon? Yes. Yeah. I can't see you. Okay, here's one that I did a little earlier, practicing. I had to cut a few of them trying to work backwards, what I'm used to. So what I do with my... People, is everybody familiar with shellac? You can get it two ways. You can go down and buy a can of Zinsser, but you got to be careful depending on what you're using. There's shellac has wax in it, just naturally. All shellac does. So you can buy waxy shellac, and if it's got wax in it, you don't want to use it as a primer or a barrier coat under another finish. Okay? I actually, in some respects, I prefer the waxy shellac for finishing. But it's, again, you can't mix it with another finish, or you don't want to. And if it's like a tabletop or something that's going to get some wear, it's not as durable and resistant to liquids, alcohol, etc. Alcohol is the solvent. So it's not as durable. Okay, so if you're going to finish something that's going to be a little abused, so to speak, you want to use de-wax shellac. You can buy de-wax shellac. Zinsser sells 3 flavors of shellac. The only one that's de-wax is called Seal Coat, and it's hard to find. The only place I know that kind of has it is PPG Paint. And they say it's got a 3-year. Shellac also has a short shelf life. Zinsser claims 3 years. I wouldn't use probably a can that was 3 years old. And you got to be careful with Zinsser too, because they used to stamp the date of manufacture on the top of the can. They quit doing that. Now they put a code there. And I forget how you decipher it, but it can be deciphered. It's letters and numbers. And it'll tell you when it was canned. And I've gone in and picked up a new can, and it's been over 3 years old. So my advice is don't use it. Just buy it in flake form, like this. You can get, that's de-wax. And that's orange. You can get different flavors. Another advantage of shellac, in my opinion, for warm woods, or for woods like cherry, maple, it gives it a little bit of color or patina, and it really warms it up, especially walnut. Walnut, to me, if you put a water white finish on it, it looks anemic. It just doesn't look right. But shellac is great for that. So to do a small piece like this is really easy. So I mix up, and the solvent. You can use denatured alcohol. I don't recommend it, because you don't know what in the world they got in there. What you're after is ethanol, pure ethanol. And but they put methanol in there, which is toxic, so that you can't drink it and get drunk. But they also put other stuff. There's probably a fair amount of water in there, which you definitely don't want, and God knows what else. Because the cheaper they make it, the more money they make for it. And the stuff ain't cheap anymore. So what I would recommend doing as an alternative to that, go down to a liquor store and buy some moonshine, 190 proof. And you're after ethanol. And what I found, I've tried that, it works. But what I found best of yet, and I'll never go back, is Mohawk Finishes, and Klingspor sells the stuff by a quart of it's shellac thinner. And they won't tell you what's in it, but it's probably over 95% pure ethanol. It's proprietary. They have to put something in there to make it non-drinkable, and they may add something else probably to increase the quality of it, because this is mixed. I've never been able to mix shellac flakes and not have to filter it. This is de-wax shellac flakes and the Mohawk thinner, and there's nothing in it. You don't have to, as clear as water. I mean, as clean as, of course, it's orange, but so I would recommend that. There's another source that's called Lab Alley, and you can actually buy food grade 200 proof pure ethanol from them. The problem with them is if you buy a quart, it's way, way expensive, so you want to buy a gallon, and it's not cheap. It's about $70, $80 in that range, which it's worth it for a gallon, but they add a hazmat fee on it of $40. But if you get on their mailing list, I've seen it a few times, that every now and then they'll waive the hazmat fee. So you could, but all things being equal, I'd buy the Mohawk, to make a long story short. So for a small piece like this, it's easy. For a larger piece, it's a little more complicated because shellac dries quick, real fast, faster than lacquer. And that's where people get into trouble. They try to apply it like a wipe-on poly or paint it on like varnish or even a brushing lacquer. And if you don't work fast and get that coat on, you can't go back. And then it sticks and you pull finish off and gums up and you got a mess on your hands. Of course, it's easy to fix. You just wipe it off with alcohol and start over again. That's the beauty of shellac. Anyway, if you haven't figured it out, I like shellac. I just start turning, and I'll put it in a bottle like this. And with this small piece like this, I can get it on quickly and get it all wet without having to worry about areas drying as I'm going. So you can just load this up. That's dry. Okay? So, and if you get a heavy coat on, you can just let it turn like the varnish demo. But and so, you know, you can wait a minute. Coat number 2. But for something like a top, an ornament like that, you know, it's a quick and dirty, easy finish, and it looks good. Dry, just about dry, a little tacky. But coat 3. For a bigger piece, you pad it on. And you have to make a little pad. You can't get really sloppy wet. You put the stuff on the shellac on the inside, and it bleeds out. And most, like with a hollow form, what I'll do is I'll put it on the lathe, but I won't turn the lathe on. I'll rotate it by hand, and you're padding. And so you're just adding layer upon layer upon layer as you go. Takes a while, but so this is dry. Okay. We'll let that dry a minute, and I'll show you something else. Bear with me a second. I want to try to give it enough time to dry. This is de-wax, by the way. This is called de-wax blonde. Finish Enterprises is where I've been buying it. I really like that. This is stuff I've had for a long time. And you mix it by, they call it cut. Like a 2-pound cut is 2 pounds of shellac to a gallon of solvent. And I usually mix up a 2-pound cut, 2 ounces by weight of shellac into 8 ounces of solvent is a 2-pound cut. And I find that works pretty well for everything. Zinsers is 2-pound cut, seal coat. Their amber waxy is 3-pound cut. So you'll want to reduce it if you use it. I wouldn't use stuff, but I use seal coat every now and then because you can just go down there and most of the time get it. But this is so much better. And you mix up a little bit, so if it lays around so much, you're not throwing out a quart that cost you what is it now? Yeah. It's a lot more economical. You know your ingredients are fresh. You know the date's good. Right. Yeah, the seal coat is. With the flakes, you buy it either de-waxed. You can buy waxy shellac and just let it sit in the jar, and the wax will float up at top and decant it. But I've never done that. I mean, you can buy it de-waxed. Why go to all that trouble? Okay, and you can this is pretty good. After several coats, you might want to buff it out a little bit. Some real fine sandpaper. But remember, I told you shellac will stick to just about anything. This is Yorkshire grit. Hampshire sheen, I think, is another one. There's other ones. Y'all know, I'll probably all know what that is. It's got a fine abrasive in it, and it's also got beeswax and wax and all kind of stuff in there. So it's normally recommended to use after your last coat, right? So we'll go ahead and polish this up. Just for the hell of it, this is their super duper fine. Polish that up nicely. Whoops. Oh Lord, I hate this. That's not a bad finish right there. And then I would usually put a little wax on top of that. But let's say I want another coat. I just put all that wax on there, didn't I? I should sell ShamWows. Dry. I don't think you could do that with any other finish. I wouldn't try. But like I say, it's a great base coat for your, I would say even, I don't know of anything that won't stick to it. Now, if you're using water-based something, do a test coat. But I always recommend, if you're not familiar with your finish, to do a test coat before you commit. But It's a barrier coat. If you're spraying your lacquer on and you got some areas where maybe there's some contamination or something, you're having a little orange peel or another problem, put a quick coat of shellac on it. And you're starting over. And it'll seal in all that stuff. That's it.
So how many in here are as OCD as he is? Come on, be honest. That is amazing. The finial itself, with as delicate as it is, and it can snap just like whatever, but that's just phenomenal, Rob. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I like doing them.
Yeah, but how many do you usually do when you batch it?
I went nuts. I mean, this is half of what I did last time. I don't know. I got on a roll. But I'll do probably at least a dozen.
Okay. Okay.
They sell pretty well. Southern Highlands has sold them.
Well, that's what I was gonna.
Much out of them.
Yeah. How
But,
to be nosy, what do you sell them for?
I sell them at a market of $48 each.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, it is. Right.
I get about half that at Southern Highlands, and then they mark it up
A little bit.
30%. So they're selling for
Right.
I guess 50, 55.
Well,
But yeah, they're unique. They're pretty. I just started doing these.
ooh, that's pretty.
But same method, same attachment. I still use the cones. Again, it saves you from having to precisely fit those tenons. And again, it does away with any glue squeeze out, which is a real plus.
Okay. Well, I wanted to clarify something because I think it was Ronnie who had a question. On the 21st at the tent sale, what will we be selling? Bob and I will set up a table. We will sell our own things. We will collect money for our own things. It's ours. It's not a donation for the club. It's something that we are partnering with Lumber and Craft. So if you come, you have a table, you're selling your items, and you're collecting your funds. So other than Bob and I need a show of hands of who will commit to the 21st to be there from 10 until 3 at Lumber and Craft. It's a Saturday. Okay, so I got us and John. That's the good arm, right? Okay, so we've got 2. Anybody else interested in doing a tent sale? This idea came from Bruce Gordon, which also, like John, has come from a larger group, and they have it helps both of us in a big way because they're in a great location. They're on Walnut Street. So us and John, and because I have to tell Gabriel tomorrow how many spots we'll need because he has other vendors that are taking spots as well. Yeah. If you want one, you bring your own. And since we know the weather so well, right? So, any other announcements we have? Who's doing it next? Oh, Richard's doing it next month. He's doing coring. We will have our meeting. It's July 1st. I realize that's close to July 4th, but I'm to the age of I don't go anywhere, so I'm going to be here. So we will have our meeting. And over on the table in front of Bob is our invitation cards. Please take some, and when you're in a conversation, give one to somebody to invite them to come. It's got enough information to tweak their interest and my phone number so I can bore them to death. So are there any other announcements, anything coming up we don't know about? Oh. So much for what you've done for us, and Sam has helped graciously with the cameras, and Delbert has done very well with the computer, so thank you so much. And I think next month they're going to do a role reversal. So anyway, we'll try it out. So I'm throwing them under the bus. Thank you.
Thank you.